Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got another week of training recap for you all. Kind of just rolling right through the off season. We're sitting about still 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I wish we're still 6 months out from Raw Nationals that is going to be in Reno, Nevada in March. So at this point, still just plugging away with some volume and variations. Actually getting a little bit heavier on some of the exercises, but just kind of getting the work in. This is the point in training where sometimes it's very difficult to keep that motivation because you're far out from a competition. Let's be honest, if you're powerlifting, what you really love is the competition and getting ready for those meets, but we can't always be so close to competition time. So, just going in and getting the work done, even whenever the motivation isn't super high, is the name of the game. So day one, I had the pause safety bar squats, still sets of 6, and just creeping the weight up. So we're up to 515 pounds for the sets of 6. Still very solid RPE, probably 6 or 7-ish on those. So overall feeling good. Sometimes this day feels beat up from day 4 of the prior week because it is, just 2 days after that day 4. And then those are followed with snatch grip RDLs, just kind of creeping the weight up to 385 pounds. And once again, still super easy. Call that less than an RPE 6. But I always, those do a good job of getting my hamstrings burning and then also my upper back because of that wider grip. It's just harder to have the weight hang from you in that position. And also when you're changing direction like that, it's good for grip work. So on to day 2, we're just plugging away with the Swiss bar, and the weight is creeping up here, and I really have liked how the Swiss bar isn't bothering my shoulder. This shoulder issue, bursitis, whatever it may be, has been kind of just a nagging, I don't want to call it injury, but pain in my neck for the past few weeks. All of you who have been following along know that, but it is a relief to be able to do some pressing and benching on this day without that discomfort. So that's a great sign. And also, since we're pushing the weight up a little bit, slowly but surely. Also, I've never done like Swiss bar work on an incline. So it adds a fun factor to it that when you're this far deep into the off season, you've just got to have fun. Right? So we'll continue to push those forward. I think I have plenty of room to up the weight for the RPEs. And hopefully that'll translate to a bigger bench whenever competition time rolls around. Now we're on to day 3, which is arguably the most boring day, but it still matters. So I've got tempo, eccentric deadlifts here, where you pull them up fast, and then it's supposed to be a 3-second tempo. I think I get pretty close on these to the 3 seconds that they're supposed to be. Obviously, it's still a really lightweight, and we'll keep pushing those forward. But by the end, I really get a forearm pump from having to hold on to the weight, which I never think that's a bad thing. And then also, it just kind of loosens up the hamstrings and the low back and everything to lead into my heavier day. And then the only other notable lift from this day are my row variations, which I decided to make kind of like this low deadlift stance row. And I've been slowly pushing up the weight here. So this is 265 pounds for a 4x8. And I really feel this in my lower lats, and I expect this to carry over well to the deadlift because it's that deadlift position. Plus, there's that fun factor. I get to choose what my row variations are. So I'm going with that. We'll push the weight up for a bit, and then maybe switch out those rows at some point. So on to day 4, which is my heavy day of the week. This is on Saturday, and I was feeling pretty good overall. So this is my last warm-up at 635 pounds. I had 3 sets of 3 at 675 pounds for my top sets. So you'll see this last warm-up moves pretty well overall. I'm going to point this out on my last top set that I show here. I have a terrible habit of getting stuck on this rack, and it really came to bite me today, where I got stuck on the left side and I basically just windmilled it back out very slowly, and I'm feeling it today, and I felt it for the rest of the session going into deadlifts, where just my back is a little bit sore. It's like my back/hip area. Not injured for sure, but it just kind of overly taxed that muscle, that left lumbar erector. So I'll kind of have to take that into account going into next week. This was my first set with 675, and this was my best set for sure. These are very smooth, and I would rate this at an RPE, maybe 7. I think I could have done a very solid set of 6 with this, honestly. And watching this back, it looks maybe even easier than a 7. So, very happy with that. And then here is my final set, and I'll kind of let it play out. Now, it's one of those things. If I was smart, whenever I go to unrack this bar, watch that left side, it gets stuck. I should have just put it back into the rack, reset, and redone the whole set. But instead, I tried to just slow things down, and I'll commend myself. I was patient, and that's a good thing. You don't want to panic in these situations whenever you get stuck. That's where you're going to get off balance and bad things are going to happen. But I did stay calm, but I kept with the set, and that's something. One, the set probably ended up being harder than it should have been. Here we are, watch. I get stuck on the left side, and I just kind of muscled it back out. So that definitely made this set harder than it should have been, even though watching back, this wasn't super hard. So very promising. But walking away after squats, I was like, oh, how are we going to deadlift here? Just because I was sore and fatigued, we'll call it that. But good news is we moved on to bench. The shoulder soreness is still there. I find that the more I warm up, the better I feel. And we hit this 435. It's supposed to be an RPE 8 set. And something I've noticed, I'm just kind of lacking explosiveness. And I think that stems from confidence in the shoulder. So if you watch my descent, it's a little tentative. I do a good job of actually having that aggressive touch, which I've been working on for months, since nationals, honestly. And then if you watch the way up, yes, it's slow, but it's more of a deliberate slow. And I would still call this an RPE 8. It didn't feel hard. Very solid pause and slow and steady on the way up. So getting through that, another 5 pounds on from the last week, pretty promising. And then I have my back down sets with 395 for my sets of 4s. Definitely getting a little tired at this point. I did this later in the day than I normally would. That's no excuse, of course, but you can see that was probably an RPE tough 8 or even an easy RPE 9. And then, as some sort of cruel joke, I went to film my final set of deadlifts with 590. These were sets of 8 and PRs, and the film cut off. But I was too gassed to do another set, an extra set from what was programmed, so I just called it there. So thank you all for following along. As always, I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Happy lifting.